What Will You Tell Them? By Cecelia Jabarine-Marshall. 20 years from now, when this pandemic is past, and some horrors of this time forgotten at last, when a new generation comes to age, what will you tell them about the corona cage? How for countless days we stayed locked up inside, anticipating the wave of sickness to sweep us into its tide, more scared, paranoid, and anxious than we'd ever known, of something invisible with lasting effects not clearly shown. How the gravity came to light when the Louvre closed and Olympics called off. Airports darkened, and emergency flights for returned nationals were all that took off. How as things shut, we gathered supplies, hoarding canned goods and packets of two-ply. How we watched from afar at Italy and Spain. As countless coffins lay in freezers, our questions still remained. How every night at 8 we gathered around the TV to see the numbers rise and rise. No country safe to escape to, all the world suffering the same demise. Then at 9, applause rang out from homes for all emergency workers' sacrifice. But this recognition couldn't expel the failure of the government for earlier not paying their price. What will you tell them about this time being alive? How we all strive together in different ways to survive? Surviving not only physically, but mentally too, because weeks after weeks, people turned into loons. Some jogged with their arms stretched out wide like a bird, creating their own protective distance bubble while looking absurd. How masks and sanitizer were stolen from hospital wards, found later on Amazon, over 200% price increasing, smashing records. How families were squashed together in their homes, both big and small, for 24/7. Couples slowly realizing no more are they the match made in heaven. While kids celebrated school closures, parents cowered with terror, juggling childcare, chores, work calls, now both being the pants wearer. How will you describe that utter feeling of loss of control? Days, weeks, months mixing together left a mental toll. How we all tried to laugh about it with memes, gags, and jokes, but the fear of the future unknown and death left us with strokes. How sometimes you'd forget and go out and see nothing strange until you noticed people all standing or walking more than 2 meters away. Long lines formed winding around street blocks made your heart sink, since only one person was allowed inside pharmacy, bakery, or bank. Thick plastic shields rose up dividing cashier from the client. On colorful, fashionable masks we all became reliant. Unexpected greeting of friends on the street was a joy of at last outside contact, but the strangeness of embracing with mere elbow pats caught you off track. Speaking of elbows, they became quite easeful during this time, with opening doors and hitting elevator buttons to keep away the corona grime. And our hands became so dry from the constant washing and soap. They dried, cracked, and bled, and no amount of lotion gave hope. How quarantine, lockdown, vaccination, and masks were our new vocabulary. And we adopted coping techniques, learned skills, or took online classes that were necessary. How the days melted from binging one Netflix show to another, or for hours you'd phone with friends, parents, even your old grandmother. How mom and pop shops and restaurants with encouraging signs in windows could be found, vowing that they would be back soon and rallying everyone to stay home safe and sound. Hearing story after story of all theaters, halls, museums, and businesses closed, and the tragedy people suffered, suddenly being jobless and extremely exposed. And 20 years from now, when this pandemic has passed, and some of the horrors of this time forgotten at last, what will you tell our future generations about this year? Will you be able to tell how you offered aid and helped those near? Or when the world continues spinning and the lockdowns cease, can we just be proud to say that we made it through in one piece?